All right. Welcome, everybody, to Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. Today, we have an awesome interview with the lovely Nicky Mih. And we have Philippa Billette is going to be chatting to Nicky. And we're super stoked to bring to you this interview. But I reckon we just cut straight to it. Guys, if you have any questions, make sure you chuck them down in the comments down below. We won't be able to answer them while we're going live, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But right now, thanks for tuning in. For those of you who join us as we go, thanks for joining us. Stick around as long as you can, but handing it over to the lovely Philippa and Nicky. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. So yay, I'm so excited to be talking to Nicky today. So first of all, I want to do a little pick of her book, Do What Matters. So Nicky is an author. She is also founder of an amazing organization, which I'll let Nicky tell you all about. It's called Free to Shine. The reason why we're doing this interview too is we've actually partnered with Free to Shine, which is an organisation that helps keep girls in Cambodia in schools rather than in brothels. And as parents, Chris and I, with our own little girls, and just thinking about the type of things that happen in other countries, even in our own country, putting girls and other children into sex trafficking, it is just the worst thing that I think could ever happen in this world. So we really wanted to get behind Free to Shine and help make an impact in the lives of these girls and their families and their communities. So Nicky, I'd love you to introduce yourself and let us know a bit more about Free to Shine. So it was founded in 2010, so that's 11 years ago. And I'd love to know why you were inspired to begin it.
Cool. Awesome. I'm really pleased to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris, and thanks for having me, Philly. It's a pleasure. I'm Nicky Mih, co-founder and managing director of Free to Shine, which is a child protection organisation in Cambodia, specifically to prevent school-aged girls being trafficked into the commercial sex industry. So it did begin in 2010. And where did it begin and why, what was my inspiration? I suppose it began with, for me, reading a bunch of books about the plight of women and girls in different countries around the world. And those stories really upset me, but at the same time, they really, really inspired me too. So, for example, from Mukhtar in Pakistan, who was sentenced to a gang rape as a punishment for a crime that her brother allegedly committed, to 10-year-old Nujud in Yemen, who walked into a courtroom and requested they help her get divorced. And I read these books and I hated that such awful things happen, and I wanted to help, and then I didn't know how. So after reading each book, I'd place it carefully back on my bookshelf and I'd just go about my life as usual. And one day, because I had this niggling feeling constantly, and one day I just realized that I can't keep reading these books but doing nothing about it. So I made a promise to myself that the next book I read, no matter what the issue, what the country, I would do something. And then the next book that I read was about sex trafficking in Cambodia. And I learned that girls are being tortured with acid, electrocuted, and raped because we're doing nothing to stop it. And I knew that it was time for me to step up.
Yeah.
So it was about 12 years ago now that I went to Cambodia and I spent a month with survivors. And I asked them how we could help. And that was when I learned that the day they got rescued, the traffickers didn't go without a girl. They just went out into a rural village and took a new young girl to replace them. And they said to me, Nicky, go out to the rural villages, find the girls who aren't in school and get them into school. And when I looked around the room at them, they were each shaking their head that not one of them had been in school when they were trafficked. And they believed if they were in school, they wouldn't have been trafficked, they would have been safe. And so I began talking to every organization I could find. I began researching, and I found that there were really great organizations that were collaborating with the police on rescue operations. There were aftercare centres for survivors when they were rescued. There were even legal teams working within the justice system to try to bring about prosecutions. Yet I couldn't find any organisation out in these rural villages that was specifically identifying these next girls before the traffickers did. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I love that too. I think that's what, when Chris and I wanted to align ourselves with an organisation and a charity that we could give back to as well. I really loved what you do, because it's not so much about, yes, we need to support these girls that have already been through these horrible experiences. But what I love about what you do is that it's really getting at the root cause of why it's happening even in the first place. And like, even from a health perspective in functional medicine, it's all about getting to the root cause of your health issues and, why you're feeling this way and why your life is this way. And so you're doing this at this really important global level, which I love.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit too about the sex industry. So how many people are currently enslaved? Because like you said too, we read, especially in the Western cultures, we read these books and it's like, oh, that's awful. And then we put them back on the bookshelf and we don't really understand the magnitude of this stuff that's happening around us.
So globally, there are more than 4.8 million victims of forced sexual exploitation. And on average, they are held in captivity for 23.1 months. 99.4% of them are women and girls. 21.3% of them are children.
That's awful. That is just all of it's awful. All the numbers are awful, but the fact that a quarter of them are kids too. When I was reading your book, and not that I want to dwell on the awful things that happen, because this book is probably full of more of the hopeful and inspiring things and the way that the girls and the families are changing lives and their own lives. But in the initial first few chapters, there were just some horrific things, like little 4-year-old child being kept in a cage and brought out when evil men wanted to come and have sex with her. That is just, I can't even comprehend the type of people that would do that. So I think too, the magnitude of, or the amount of people that are being exposed to this, I think everyone should be doing something within our power to be able to help support this. So whether it's, learning more about it, donating to a cause like yours, or actually getting involved with the communities. So can you see a day where sex trafficking actually stops?
I can. And to go back to your point, currently what the world spends on stopping and preventing sex trafficking is less than 1% of what the traffickers make in profit.
Insane.
So the traffickers are far more serious about doing it than the world is about stopping them. And so that's what needs to change. I think more people are required to step up.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'd love to learn, or our listeners to learn, a bit more about how you actually support the young girls in Cambodia.
Cool. Yeah, cool. So I have a team of education officers and social workers. We've helped 754 school-aged girls across 59 different rural villages to achieve their rights. So that's to be free from slavery, to access education, but also safe drinking water, enough food, and adequate shelter. So our work centers around 3 main goals. So our first goal is safe communities for children. So we teach families how to protect themselves from exploitation and abuse. So we conduct monthly safety visits and social work interventions, focusing on strengthening family and community systems so that the safety and education of their children is their priority. And we address complex factors such as poverty, hunger, illness, unemployment, migration, addiction, family violence, and debt. And our second goal is educated girls, because while the girl is physically in the classroom, she is safe. She's under the watchful eye of a professional, someone who can report if and when her circumstances change. So we provide the materials and the funds that she needs in order to access her local state school. But we also help the girls to stay in school by providing access to safe drinking water, enough food, and adequate shelter. And then our third goal is women in leadership. And I'll tell you why that's important to what we do. So we model gender equity. So only 7% of the village leaders that we work with and only 5% of the school directors we work with are female. So it's so important that we invest in the next generation of Cambodian women leaders by providing leadership training to emerging leaders, and I'll tell you about that in a little while, and also funding university places.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love to, you talked about the complex factors. That's what, in case people are like, what are you talking about? The root cause of getting to the root cause of the issue is that, the fact that I remember reading in your book that it's just like the simple thing of not having safe water. For us, we'd think like, oh yeah, we just take water for granted. But in other areas of the world, if you don't have safe water, that means that, potentially you get sick for a week or two or a month, chronically sick, where you can't go to work and then you can't earn money for your family. And then you're left at this your point where you are very vulnerable, I guess, to exploitation, like what you said.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and I love the leadership part too. That is so cool, because it's also not just about, and not that you at all give handouts. It's kind of like, and when you do provide things for the girls or the family, it's also to support them in their own self-sufficiency. So that's amazing. And then creating leaders to then help you guys as well in your organization. I think as I was reading the book too, a lot of girls sort of then champion what you're doing and then go out and do other stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the purposes of us doing that is as part of an exit strategy. We don't want to have to be in Cambodia forever. So it's about equipping them with the skills so that they can keep the next generation of children safe.
Yeah, I can even see you, I don't know how long in the future, but Cambodia is all set up and then you move to the next country that really needs the help. So I'd love to learn a bit more about some of the impact that Free to Shine has made and your future goals.
Yeah, okay, cool. So we've traveled 500,000 kilometers. We've provided 30,000 safety visits, 2,500 social work interventions. We've facilitated 170 community trainings, provided 900 bikes or more than 900 bikes, funded 1.4 million curriculum classes, provided 2.2 million days of safe drinking water, provided leadership training to 23 emerging leaders, funded 33 university places, built 21 homes, and helped a teenage girl build a community library. But to better illustrate what that actually looks like, I'd love to tell you a story about Kin and also Ree, because I think that'll illustrate better than just the numbers do. So Kin was 8 when we found her, and her and grandma didn't have a house. So they lived outside on a wooden bed. So if you imagine a wooden bed frame with the wooden slats, and they'd placed a mat made of woven palm leaves over the wooden slats, and they slept on there and they lived on that, and they'd wrapped it in plastic and hung the plastic through the trees, but they were still getting wet every time that it rained. And The first time we met Kin, she told us that she sometimes borrows a neighbour's bike and cycles to the school. And she said, I stand outside the gate looking in at the children learning, and I hope that one day maybe I too can sit inside the classroom. So we enrolled her in school. We got her the uniforms and the shoes and the bag full of books and pens that she needed. But more importantly, we visit her every month to ensure that she stays safe. And we built her and Grandma a small home of their own.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yeah, Kin loved school from day dot. She loved school. When we met her, she also had a 10-year-old sister who'd also never been to school, but who had already been sent to Thailand to work. So we worried about her, and we hoped that we'd be able to get her back safely and also get her into school. And after a year, we were able to enroll her in school too. And Kin is now 15, and both her and her sister are thriving.
That's so amazing. That is so cool. I told my little girls who are 5 and 8, they're almost about to turn 6 and 10, about Kin. I told them about the house, or the not house that they lived in, and then how that I think my girls are actually complaining about wanting to go to school. And I said, you are so lucky to be able to go to school. Like, it's actually illegal not to go to school into Australia, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But and then I explained to them too that some people live in a house where it's just glad wrap for the walls, and then to go from that to now thriving, that is just so awesome. And I love the numbers. I think your business partner is an accountant. Yeah. The numbers give it substance, but then the stories give it the heart. And I think that's what people connect to too.
Yeah, totally. It's nice to get both.
Yeah.
To really see and get a flavour for what it is.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'd love to tell you about Ree as well, because I think your listeners would love to hear about Ree. So Ree is 14. And she has this belief that if she works hard, she can achieve her goal. And her goal is to be a teacher. And I guess one of the things that I've learned, so my book is about 34 lessons that I've learned. So one of the things that I've learned is that despite the challenges they face, and they face challenges that we couldn't even imagine, despite the challenges they face, so many of the girls on our program are eager to share their knowledge and improve their communities. And Ree was concerned that her community had nowhere to come together in the evening to read and to learn. And the nearest place that they were using was far enough away that the children were cycling home in the dark on busy and dangerous roads where there had been accidents. And so Ree asked us if she could borrow a few more library books and also a whiteboard and some pens, because she wanted to start her own small library from her house, and she wanted to begin tutoring a small group of children in literacy and maths.
Cool.
So that was cool. We'd had a few girls that had wanted to do that. But when we saw Ree's strength and determination, we invited her to be part of our Emerging Leaders program. And once she joined that, her plan just grew from a few books and a whiteboard to actually building a library and a community centre.
Wow.
And she did that, and her mum uses that community centre to teach adults in her village not to be violent to their families, to teach them about the effects that it has on them.
Yeah. And
her dad teaches the almost lost art of Sanskrit. And he said that he envisions his library as a key part to being like a role model for other villagers. So I just love that story, because Ree lives in extreme poverty, facing challenges that none of us have to. And yet she has this cool ambition to help and serve her community.
And also the library too, and learning. Like when you're in those extreme conditions, you would kind of think, well, I would kind of think that, it'd just be more about getting enough food on the table, whereas they have these big visions and they make things happen from nothing, which is amazing.
Yeah, they really do. I think because of where it began with the Khmer Rouge war, it's their parents were denied an education. So they believe that the poverty that they're in, the struggles that they face, like how hard their life is because they don't have that education. So they know they want an education because through education, they can change it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. And I can see too where you have come from too. It's almost like a round circle of reading lots of books, and then having these girls just devouring books. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So, how could our listeners find out more about what you do and what Free to Shine do?
Yep. So I think a really cool place to start would be with the book. It's called Do What Matters, What Leading a Child Protection Organization in Cambodia Taught Me About Life and Leadership. So that'd be a really cool place to start. That they can get that on our website. Yep. That's what it looks like. So they can get that on our website, which is freetoshine.org. It's also available on Amazon. And then also on our website, they can read our impact reports. So we do quarterly impact reports and also annual impact reports. And they're really good places to begin. And there's also some videos if they want to actually see what it looks like. They can watch some videos. Would be,
Yeah. I just want to say something else about your book too. I'm a very avid reader as well, and a pretty high critic. But I think Chris would know. I'm in bed reading it, and I don't want to put it down. It's an awesome book, even just from a storytelling point of view. You will love it and get a lot from it.
Thank you.
And also too, if our listeners would like to get involved, or any ways that we can help out, what are some of the ways that people can get involved with what you do?
Yeah, great. So you might have a listener who might be interested in sponsoring a girl. We've got 118 girls awaiting a sponsor, so that would be one really cool way. You might have a listener who works in a company that's got more than 20 employees, and they could find out for us if their company has something called a workplace giving program that we could get added to. That would be really helpful. And you might have a listener who runs their own business, and they might be interested in our Business Matters webinar. So whichever ways they might be interested, if they contact us through our website, through the contact page, then we'll help direct them to the best place for the type of support that they'd be most interested in.
Awesome. So good. Well, I think that is all the questions answered. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Just that I am really happy to have partnered with you guys. It's such a nice alignment of what you're wanting to achieve with parents.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to work with you guys and with the community that you've built.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, just another little thing, like why we aligned with you guys too is you're helping children, you're helping families in a different way to what we are, in terms of getting parents healthy and more connected with their family. But really, it's the same end goal, to create really healthy, happy and thriving families. And that's going to make the world different and a beautiful place to live in.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for coming on.
You're most welcome.
It was awesome to chat. And if anyone has any comments, then feel free to pop them down in our comment section. I'll also put a link to the live video straight to your website so that people can easily find you guys.
Fantastic.
And any other resources that I might find useful to point people to.
Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nicky, for jumping on, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Those of you who have, Nicky, we invite you to stick around. We'll have a little bit of a chat after we finish this live stream. But for everybody else, thank you so much. Make sure you leave a comment down below if you want more information, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, everybody.